So I've been reading David in 1 Samuel 16 and 17. I gotta put it down. I've been listening to my old videos and I'm just so recharged and rejuvenated and reminded of so many good things. This has been so helpful just to record just powerful, impactful Bible studies that I've had on my own as I walk through this journey. It really is a individual journey, and it's nice to have friends, but this is work out your own salvation. And when I used to get ready for big Bible studies with people, I would go into topics and ideas that maybe weren't as common. And then when I started researching David, there was so much out there because he's so amazing and so incredible. So me being the person who doesn't like to do what everybody else does, I actually almost steer away from him and find some of the lesser known people. But there's a reason why he's so good and why he's so studied. And there's so much here. I remember back at a family camp in Minnesota, 2010, 2011, 2012, somewhere around there, when Brother Mooney was preaching about David. And he said, army versus army. And if we come up against the enemy, how they come at us, we're going to lose. And I hope I never forget that message because it was so powerful. And so as I go through this, I have that message in the back of my head, thinking about it. And I keep going back to just the situation, the confrontation between Goliath and the Israelites. And I just have a few things that I want to get recorded. And it's just amazing how Saul had been chosen because he looked like he was good for the part. And everyone's like, yeah, he's going to do really well. And then God blessed him and made him very successful and people liked him. But there's a reason why God said, he's not worth it. He's not going to make it. I'm just going to leave him and go find someone else, because he was very superficial and shallow in his faith. And that's what you really need to be successful. Because if we were so successful on just what we could do, we wouldn't need God. But this world is never going to be something that we can do on our own successfully. We're always going to need him because we're imperfect people. And I think what we do is we get to the point in our walk and in our life where we're like, okay, God, I got this. You can go sit down. I'll take care of this. I know what to do now. Thanks for the help. And then we try to do it on our own. You can't do that. You don't tell God to go sit down. And we may not verbally say that, and we may not even consciously say that, but that's exactly what we do when we go army versus army, when some bad battle comes up against us. And we just look at, well, what can we do to fight? Did you forget how you won every battle before this? Yeah, God was in that one, but what do we do now? So I look at all the things going on in my life and how I've felt so out of control and I've been scared. And I could see how the Israelites would do the same thing. They had been delivered from one of the most powerful leaders and countries in the world at the time. And God literally opened the Red Sea for them and let them walk on dry land. And then he killed their opponents. And they walked successfully, and he provided for them for 40 years. And then he helped them conquer those lands. Why didn't he just give them those lands? Why did they have to work for it? To recognize that they needed to depend on him. To recognize that there was nothing they could do without him. Every time they needed to go to him and ask for help. Not, yeah, God, I got this one. I'll ask next time. It would never be like that. However, I believe that's our tendency in life, is to try to do it on our own and just have God take a back seat. And so after everything that they've done and how God had provided, I believe that they got confident in themselves and they started just trying to do what they could on their own. And in my struggle, in my current situation, oh, it feels like I've got some good warriors on my side. They've got some good defense. They've got some good offensive weapons. But the enemy also could have some good weapons. I don't know what they'd be, but it almost looks like just a battle, and that either side could win because they have the same abilities and they have the same opportunities to use weapons. And so looking at them as equals. And David comes into the situation. So he's not there for all the pomp and circumstance and all the things to get everybody all afraid and talking to all the people and having this mind game, because that's really what it had been for 40 days, where he taunts them and ridicules them and tells them that they're losers and that he's going to destroy them like he has everybody else. And they look at their situation. They look at what he has. And they're like, oh my God, we're going to die. That's why they stay away. David comes in and he's like, dude, compared to God, you're nothing but an ant. And he sees it in the spiritual realm. And he knows from personal experience, time after time after time, that God has always provided for him. And he knows he doesn't need to go army versus army. He doesn't even need the weapons of warfare at the time. He's going to use what he's always used, because it's not really him, it's God. And he just has such confidence in him because he's done it with him so many times. He's not looking for anything. He's not saying, look at me, what can I do? This is going to be awesome. He's just like, guys, let's go take him out. And I believe it's the right heart, the right spirit, and the right reason. So Goliath comes up, and he's got a sword and a spear and a shield. So I was looking it up. And a sword is for close contact, and spears could inflict at a distance. And so what you do is you use your spear first, because you don't have to be as close to the enemy, and you can inflict pain. You could kill. I mean, they say it was a very effective weapon, but what you do is you start with the spear, and then when you get close enough, then you can use the sword. So he had two really good offensive weapons. And then, I mean, like, pretty powerful, and they were very big, very strong. You're not going to be able to probably even knock these out of his hands when you're coming up against him. He knows that because he's so much bigger, stronger, heavier than the Israelites. I'm thinking they're probably like half his size. So all of his weight on his armor would be difficult to even knock out of his hands because of just the size and the immensity of it. And so then he has a shield where he can defend himself against attacks. He can protect himself. So how are you going to get through? So even if the shield comes down, he's got the best of the best armor, and he's super big, and he knows this, and he knows how to fight. He knows every single which way to attack and to defend himself, to keep himself successful. That's the reason why they chose him. He's the best of the best. And that's the reason why Israel didn't want to fight him, because they knew he was top-notch, and they needed someone top-notch if they were going to go mano-y-mano. And so it says his size, his weapons, his experience made him almost impossible to beat. Israel made him, also tries to use the same weapons to go to battle. But they must remember that the battle really isn't their battle. They are attempting to do it in their own strength and might. And that's why they're scared. They see how well protected he is. They know they will lose if they go head on with their might and strength. They know this is not an equal fight. This is not going to go well. They've forgotten everything that was important. They've forgotten the most important reason for the battle. This never was simply about who would be in charge of a land. God didn't call them out and have them defeat all those lands and kings and nations to make them a powerful army. He could have just taken out all of the enemies without a fight. Why did they have to battle all those battles? Why? It doesn't make any sense. Well, God wasn't interested in land occupation. He already owned everything. He wasn't interested in a group of people, or he was interested in a group of people to have a relationship with. Together, we can conquer and do anything. By your own, good luck, buddy. And he tried to show them that, but they would go so far, and then they would try to do it on their own again. All on their own strength. They wouldn't need and depend on God. So that's where I end up all the time. I keep trying to do everything all on my own strength and my own experience. And even since I've been teaching since 2005, I just realized yesterday, I need to spend more time getting prepared. I've been getting a little bit relaxed, not taking it in a disciplined approach like I should. I need to spend more time getting prepared, because on my own, I can't do this. I need to be ready. I need to recognize my strengths, my limitations, and what do I need to be successful. I need to put a lot of time and effort into just recognizing what are the strengths, what are the struggles, and how to effectively fight. Well, they didn't look at it as anything more than a physical fight, and that was their problem, and David did. As we are incomplete individuals, we need God to complete this life successfully. Why do we get so far? Only by God's grace, and then tell God to calm down, because we can take it from here. If we couldn't do it at the beginning, and we couldn't do it in the middle, why are we going to be able to do it now when the battles get harder and harder? They don't get easier. The little battles, well, you know how to fight those with God. What about the big ones? It's still a with God thing. And so I need to remember that this battle is not about land occupation or about a superficial issue. This is about a bigger issue. Do I trust God to fight for me? Do I trust God to have my back, to be my defense and my shield? I feel sometimes defenseless because I don't, compared to the enemy, what do I have to defend myself? I might have 5 smooth rocks and a sling compared to all their armor, and they may have everything in their arsenal, but I'm not looking at it the right way. I need to look at it more like David did. It's a challenging, provoking, a lot of thought about where my priorities lie and who I'm trusting in and where I'm finding my trust. So I encourage you today to continue to recognize, what is this all about? Never was about land occupation. It was about relying on God. These battles made them strong in God. And then they left him by the side and says, we got this now. And look what happened. They fell apart. They lost everything because it never was about occupying a land or becoming strong and powerful. It never was superficial. It was to become holy and part of God. I must remember that.